I have been captivated, like I think a lot of people have, by the... If you needed a signal, this is the signal for you to read this book now. It's like, if you've been waiting on that one, now's the time to read it. Welcome to another video. Ooh, what's going on with my mouth? Hi everyone, it's me, Jess. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this spur of the moment video that I decided to put together because I don't know about you, but I've been captivated by the story from last Sunday morning of the 4 thieves who broke into the Louvre at 9:30 in the morning. When the museum was open to the public, there were people streaming through the halls of the museum, and these 4 men pulled up in a truck with an extendable ladder, sent the ladder up to this south-facing window, I can't remember if it's southeast or southwest-facing window, and broke into one of the rooms that held these incredibly significant, incredibly culturally significant jewels from the princes, princesses, kings, and queens of France. They got away until yesterday or today. I saw the headline yesterday that 2 of them have been arrested. Was I disappointed? Maybe just a little bit, because I thought it would be really fun if they got away with this. But it did inspire me to make a list of book recommendations for those of us whose imagination has been captured by this brazen crime. And it was really fun to put together this list. So I'm going to go through them. There are more nonfiction books that I was able to find than fiction books. A couple of them I have on my bookshelf, so I'll talk about them. This is great leading into Nonfiction November because I can't think of a better topic to read about. I'm obsessed. I'm really like, I'm mesmerized about how it took them 7 or 8 minutes. Like it took them 4 minutes to go up the ladder and break in, and it took them 4 minutes to smash and grab. It was like a smash and grab. And there were guards in that wing, but I think they were so shocked and taken by surprise. I don't know how they reacted. I don't know how I would react if I was, even if I was trained. I don't know if I'd expect something like as brazen as that to happen. So I've been seeing a lot of people talking about it, making jokes about it, and people seem to be really captivated. So I went ahead and put a list of books together for you all. I hope you like it. So I'm going to start with the nonfiction books because I have more nonfiction books than fiction. We're leading into Nonfiction November, and any one of these could be a great selection to add to your TBR for November. I think I'm gonna try to read one because I can't stop thinking about this. So I've got 4 fiction books and 6 nonfiction books to recommend to you today. I really tried to pick the best ones that I could. So here we go. First 6 nonfiction books, starting with, so the first one is one that I had on my shelves, The Art Thief by Michael Finkel. This came out 2 years ago, and I picked it up as soon as it came out in paper copy because I was curious about it, and it had been getting a lot of visibility. People were talking about it at the time. This is a recounting of one of the most astonishing true crime stories ever, possibly until now. It's the story of Stefan Breitweiser, who stole over 200 artworks from European museums, and he never sold these artworks. He kept them in his attic, claiming that he just wanted to be surrounded by beauty. I think it's meant to be a fascinating character portrayal of this man who went to these great lengths to steal these great works, but never made a penny from the thefts. This collection that was in his attic is estimated to be worth $2 billion, and his girlfriend served as his accomplice. He said he wanted to be surrounded by this art so he could feel like a king in his own home. So I think this is going to be a pretty compelling character portrayal of this thief. I don't know how his story ends, but I know that the ending is supposed to be shocking and heartbreaking. So this is high up on my list for sure. 2 other books that I pulled from my shelves. I have Rogues by Patrick Radden Keefe. This was a gift. Was it a gift? I don't know if this was a gift or if I picked this up myself. I might have picked this up myself. This is actually a set of essays that Patrick Radden Keefe wrote for the New Yorker, and it profiles different characters, different criminals, different hustlers. I thought it fit in fairly well with the topic, and I think, again, I didn't get a chance to do this, but I do think that this would be a fun one to dip in and out of, and I'm a huge fan of Patrick Radden Keefe. If you've been following my channel for a while, you would know that because I spoke so highly of his book, Say Nothing. I was just really amazed at how compelling his writing style is, and he has a very narrative-driven writing style, and it really pulls you into the lives of these characters. So this one will be pretty brilliantly written, I'm sure. It'll be thought-provoking, and I'm sure that each of these characters will be full of moral complexity. Definitely not all of these stories will involve art. I don't even know if one of them will. They're certainly tangential to the topic. Same with the next book that I pulled. It's not specifically about a character who is an art thief, but it's about a con woman, and I wanted to include something about a woman. A couple of the fiction books are about women, or their stories about women. I'll be getting to those soon, but this one is one that I was meaning to read last year around Nonfiction November as well. The Con Queen of Hollywood, The Hunt for Evil Genius. One of the things that the characters profiled in all of these books have in common is that they're geniuses. I'm not sure about the jewel thieves. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But the characters portrayed are brilliant, but they're morally deficient, and they're great characters. And this one is one that I've been meaning to get to because it really piqued my interest when I saw it in the bookstore last year when I picked it up. So this is a strange and disturbing story about a real life con woman. So this con queen was investigated by an FBI detective for a long time, I think. So yeah, this detective investigated the con queen for years and years and years before bringing them to justice. This character posed as this mysterious producer who would regularly impersonate famous Hollywood women in order to con creatives, and she would fly them all across the world on these false promises. I can't actually tell what the con queen's crime actually is. Other than that, it doesn't say anything about it in the summary. And I want to keep it a mystery for myself because I can't wait to find out what the con actually was. Apparently the story itself is jaw-dropping, and I wouldn't want to ruin it for anyone else either. And the next three books that I've added to this list, I don't actually have physical copies of. The first one is called The Rescue Artist by Edward Dolnick. So this is the real life story of Charlie Hill, who was a detective who investigated the theft of the scream by Edward Munch and recovered the painting after it was stolen from the museum in Oslo. This is said to be very fast-paced and has fascinating glimpses of both the criminal and the collector sides of the art world. The author really explores the ideas, not just in terms of how the thief was caught, but also why people go to such great lengths to steal artwork and take such huge risks to steal artwork. So I think it's supposed to read like a thriller, and that really appeals to me. I can tell it's going to be gripping. These are all so good. I'm so glad that I had the idea to research these because they all sound fantastic. The next one is pretty famous, even though I hadn't heard of it before I decided to make this video. It's called The Gardner Heist by Ulrich Boser. It's from an incident in the 1990s when thieves disguised as police officers walked into Boston's Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum and stole 13 pieces of priceless art. And none of them have ever been found. Boser investigates this mystery, following leads, suspects, and art world myths. And I guess, you know, there is no solution. It doesn't solve this crime. Again, it's an exploration of this obsession and, you know, what it is that drives art thieves, and the detectives themselves are a big part of this story. There's a lot devoted to the detectives and how obsessed they become with finding the thieves. So it sounds really good. It might be a little bit more journalistic, sometimes a little bit more dry in the way that nonfiction can be, because I don't know if there's a strong narrative voice in this one. I think it's more a recounting of the events and the characters and the motivations, but it still sounds really interesting. And then my last nonfiction recommendation is called Priceless: How I Went Undercover to Rescue the World's Stolen Treasures by Robert K. Whitman. Whitman is actually the founder of the FBI's art crime team. I'm not sure how great the writing is going to be in this book, but I'm sure it's going to be interesting because he recounts his personal experience with undercover work and his adventures recovering everything from stolen Picassos to stolen ancient artifacts. He has as his mission to preserve cultural heritage and to protect art and art pieces like the jewels that were stolen from the Louvre from the thieves and the traffickers who tried to steal them. And Whitman apparently also is so dedicated to his job because he really believes in art and art's importance in culture and its ability to connect human beings. So I think that this will be a really nice read as well, outside of the thrill of learning about the behind the scenes world of what it takes to track down these thieves. So I also wanted to add in some fiction books because there's one fiction book that I have to recommend. I'll leave it till the end. I think probably most people know what I'm gonna say, but you can wait till the end. I found 3 other fiction books that sound really good that are either about art theft or stolen pieces of art play a role in the plot. The first is called The Improbability of Love by Hannah Rothschild. This is about a young woman who's living in London and buys a dusty painting from an old junk shop. It's, you know, we see it all the time on Antiques Roadshow. She discovers that this painting is a lost Watteau masterpiece. And that discovery plunges her into this dark and very comic world of collectors, dealers, and shady billionaires. So this one is a social satire, a romance as well, for any of you who are interested in something a bit lighter, and it's a mystery. So it's all of those combined into one reading experience. And it sounds like it's got a lot of heart and that it's witty and emotional, and I think that could be a really fun read. It is 400 pages, so it's a little bit long. You have to be up for that. I mean, 400 pages doesn't feel too long for me if it's good, but it has been criticized for being a little bit too long. The next fiction book that sounds really good as well is called The Art Forger by B.A. Shapiro. This one is set in Boston, and it follows actually a struggling painter who's offered a very mysterious job. So this artist is offered to, or commissioned, I guess, to forge a Degas painting. But in fact, the Degas painting was stolen in the Gardner Museum heist. So not only is it a forgery, it's also an art theft book. So it's taken from the facts of the Gardner Museum heist. It'll be really fun to read the book about the Gardner Museum heist and then read The Art Forger after or at the same time. That'd be really fun. So as the artist works, and our protagonist is a woman, she starts to think that the painting that she's forging might itself be a fake. So it's a very clever, twisty story that mixes art history and, you know, this historical piece about the Gardner Museum theft. It's mixed with the ideas of ambition and authenticity and those questions about art. And I think it has a lot of real art world background and detail and information. There is a romantic subplot in this book, which reviewers have said is weak, and some twists that are a little more obvious. So if that's something that might put you off, maybe don't go for it. But apparently it's very atmospheric and it has really good pacing. So it sounds good to me. I think I'd be willing to sacrifice a weak romantic subplot to to read something with those themes. And this second last fiction book that I found sounds so good. It's a historical fiction book called The Last Mona Lisa by Jonathan Santlofer. I've never heard of this author. This one weaves in also factual information into the telling of the story because it's historical fiction. It alternates between the real 1911 theft of the Mona Lisa, which, by the way, the jewels that were stolen at the Louvre were like around the corner from the Mona Lisa, which makes it all the more shocking that these guys got away with this theft. So this story, The Last Mona Lisa, goes back and forth between the 1911 theft of the Mona Lisa and the modern day art historian who uncovers his family's link to the crime. The tension comes from the idea that there could be several fake Mona Lisas painted after the theft, and we actually don't know which one is hanging in the Louvre now, which is, I've heard this controversy before. So that one has really captivated my imagination. It's like a part mystery, part historical puzzle. It reminds me a little bit of when I read Josephine Tey's The Daughter of Time. I had a lot of fun reading that for a reading vlog. I don't know if it was last, it was the year before last. I read it for a reading vlog around Christmas time. I'm going to leave it linked in the description box below because I actually read it when I was a kid and did like a book report on it or an essay on it, and then went back and reread it. This reminds me of that story. It sounds really good. It sounds full of secrets and art world kind of atmosphere, and it sounds very immersive. And plus it has this layer of the family connection and the idea of the other Mona Lisas being forged. It just sounds really good. Who knows, it might not be good. It just sounds good. You have to read it to find out. And then the last book I can 100% recommend because I've read it myself and I love this. This is my favorite Donna Tartt book. It's The Goldfinch. If you haven't read The Goldfinch yet, it's time. If you needed a signal, this is the signal for you to read this book now. It's like, if you've been waiting on that one, now's the time to read it. The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt is a very long book, but I mean, it's a masterpiece. I loved it so, so much. I was completely lost in this book when I read it. I fell in love with several of the characters. I'm not going to name names, but the way that The Goldfinch opens is with a bombing at the Metropolitan Museum in New York City, where a 13-year-old boy named Theo Decker, who's our main character, he ends up taking a very small 17th century painting with him when he escapes or when he runs out of the rubble of this explosion, because he's visiting the museum at the time that this happens. And that decision to take that painting is something that changes his entire life, and it is the opening of this story. So we follow Theo through his life, I mean, there's a lot that happens in his life. He falls in love, he experiences grief, he experiences addiction, and he gets involved in the criminal art underworld. It's just a fantastic book. It's so, so good. And like I said, this is my favorite Donna Tartt book. I like it more than The Secret History. It can be a little bit slow and descriptive in parts, but you really get immersed in the world of New York City and Theo Decker, and he has a sidekick friend, I think his name is Boris, who I absolutely love. Amazing character. Yeah, it's just such a good book. So I had to recommend that one as the final recommendation. I hope that this gives you some food for thought. I definitely have been distracted all week by this story because it's such a shockingly wild story. And like I said, they've caught two of them. One of them was at the airport about to get on a flight to Algiers or something like that. So it's probably over for them unless they've been able to take the jewels out and carve them up. I don't know. I know I'll be watching the story as it progresses. I hope you enjoy this list. And if you haven't noticed, some of you might not have noticed, but I did start a Substack, and I have been writing about the books that I talk about in my videos over on my Substack. I'll leave a link in the description box below if you feel like checking it out. I'm also on Instagram if you want to check out my profile on Instagram. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye for now. The next three books that I'm going to, there's the sun keep going out. And so it's just I think it's meant to be a fascinating, the opening quote, this came out here, in the morning when